Well, hello there, Assurance Heroes, and welcome to the A-Plan podcast. A is for assurance, and this is your weekly audit and risk talk show. We're the A-team. He's Emre, the tech guy.
He's Andy, the communication guy.
All right, guys, what have we got for you this week? So this week's topic is, if you want to influence your auditees, master the art of the story.
I'm Ron Burgundy, and tonight's top story is America. She's the greatest country in the world.
Heck, the history of the world.
You're damn right!
Woo! Too much of the news is about what's wrong with America.
Amen, brother!
Well, tonight our top story is what's right with America.
What the hell's he doing?
He's talking about America. Why, do you have a problem with that?
Storytelling for business. This is one that a lot of audit heads, chief audit executives have been asking me about for the last couple of years now, and particularly in the last year or so, where they go onto LinkedIn, they go onto social media, and they say, we're seeing this everywhere, storytelling for leaders, storytelling for business. What is it? What is it all about? Do we need to tell stories? And the answer to that question is yes, you do. Why so? What do you think, mate? Do you ever tell stories in your assurance work?
Sure. I like telling stories because clearly storytelling is the most persuasive way to give information, to build the trust.
100%. 100%. Think about it like this. Think about your personal life, right? Who do you tell stories to? Your friends, your family members, people that you know, people that you trust. When you're feeling relaxed, you tell stories. In a social situation, you tell stories. What do you tell stories about? Your life, your experiences, the problems that you've solved, the situations that you've gone through, the successes that you've had. So ultimately, when you're telling stories, you make yourself look like a relaxed, comfortable, confident person. You build in that closeness with the other person in terms of the relationship, and you also make yourself look experienced. So it adds all of those qualities. It brings with it all of those qualities of authority, I think, that we're looking for, right?
Over 1 million women around the UK are at it. They've replaced their multi-purpose cleaners with Silitbang Universal Degreaser.
It's great on worktops. I don't need any other cleaner.
As human beings, we're sort of hardwired to listen to, remember, and act on stories. They're ultimately so persuasive. I remember some psychological research that was done by a couple of guys, Swan and Radvansky. And they did a huge survey, and they were looking at TV adverts. So ultimately, TV adverts, they're some of the most persuasive types of communication that you can come across, right?
Sure.
So they analyzed these in different countries, different cultures, and they found that fundamentally there were two types of TV advert. The first are what they called arguments, and the second were what they called dramas. So the argument is the advert that uses what we call analytical persuasion, facts and figures. So this hand detergent kills 99.9% of viruses. This washing powder gets your whites 60% whiter than our competitors. So they make a statement of fact, they back it up with some numbers, and we're supposed to be persuaded by this, right? The second type, the dramas, use what we call narrative persuasion. So there's a character, the character has an objective, they're trying to achieve something, and they're facing some adversary, some problem, there's some trial, something that they've got to go through to become successful. So this is using narrative persuasion. We're using a story to persuade people to act. When they analyzed this, they found that dramas, narrative persuasion, storytelling was 80% more effective than facts and figures.
Wow, 80%. Okay.
80% more. So if you're an assurance professional, if you're in risk, if you're in ethics and compliance, if you're in audit, if you're not telling stories, then you're potentially leaving 8 out of 10 people from your audience behind.
If anything happens to him, my people will be angry. To die in battle is glorious. To die in a tent is disgrace.
And with that, I give you Dr. Julius Greenbaum.
Thank you, Doctor. I'll just step out for a smoke. Perhaps I'll stay here.
I had experienced this many times when I was an auditor, Andy. Someone working in technology domain. My job at the time was to first explain the most abstract concepts to non-technical audience, be it, I don't know, board of directors, audit committee members, to engage them by touching their emotions, and finally to persuade them about the level of risk and possible consequences for the organization. Absolutely. And I remember one time I had to explain the technology risk that comes with the frequent changes in IT production systems. It is, and I was expected to explain all this to senior executives in the audit committee, clearly who doesn't have a technology background. So what I needed, instead of explaining the risk with some raw facts and some data with some abstract terms, I had to persuade the audience. And to do so, I need to tell them a story. At that time, I used a surgery room or operating room metaphor to compare an operating room of an hospital to an IT production system. Right. Because, as you know, anything that goes into a surgery room has to be sterile to keep the room free from the microbes. And likewise, IT production systems is just like your patient who is operated in the surgery room. Therefore, each uncontrolled access or frequent interventions increase the odds that something may go wrong, just like in a hospital, in your production system.
We all understand the character of the surgeon and their objective of performing their task. We get that. So to tell that story and to make it analogous to the IT story is fantastic. We're sort of anchoring the unknown concept with a concept that everybody knows. Yeah, it's very, very, very powerful. Yeah.
You keep the attention of your audience throughout the story.
This is the end, beautiful friend.
The ultimate goal is to convince the audit client to tell you a story.
Absolutely.
Tell his story.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if by the end of the field work, if by the end of the work that you're doing together, they're sharing their stories with you too, they're only doing it because they trust you and they like you. Mm-hmm. So it's no longer a transactional relationship where I'll give you this if you give me that. It's now becoming a transformational relationship because we've crossed that barrier of trust. We've crossed into the territory of trust. And I think it's at that point that you can start doing some real powerful work together and really, really start to improve the control environment.
Clearly.
What time is it?
If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
It's A-Team time. If you have an assurance question, if no one else can help you, then we can, because we're your assurance agony ants. So send your questions to us at the aplan@zohomail.eu, and we'll be more than happy to help you. So that's all for this week, Assurance Heroes. This has been the A-Plan podcast. A is for assurance. And if you liked it, then like it below. And until next week, never forget, when your A-Plan's good, you don't need no B-Plan.